Yeah, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And welcome for the next 20 minutes when I try to explain how sourcing meets production, how the ideas from customers, from brands, from agency materialize its way to the final output. And FOCRA is located in Munich. We are about 50 people and have members all over the place, so that's why we are an international research institute. And my name is Andreas Kraushaar. I am with FOCRA since 2001, so almost silver wedding. So other way around. Let's see. And then doesn't go. No, that is me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sourcing meets production. When I try to explain this is my best way to visualize this, because we see on the left-hand side the sourcing part. People have ideas, mood boards, spot colors, RGB values, assets, legacy CMYK, whatever. Yeah, you have many different things, which is your story, which you would like to reproduce. And on the right side, you have production. This is everything, all the Landers, all the Manrolands, all the Heidelbergs, KBAs. You know, today we print on everything which is not running away. So that is really something on the right-hand side. Flexo, digital, offset, you name it. And instead of printing directly from source to destination, the core idea of standardization, the main idea is really to put a reference in the middle, to make predictability. And this reference printing condition, this is the X for exchange. This is the output intent for PDFX, because this in the middle, this reference, this allows for communication between source and destination by using a contract proof or a soft proof or whatever visualization. With that intermediate step, we have the security both upstream back to the agencies, to your brands, to know this is what you can expect, and downstream to the printers to get fair, realizable references to meet with one digit delta E's. Yeah? And of course, this also means sometimes that you have to disappoint your customers, because you tell them very honestly and very early, this is the green I can print on newspaper. Yeah? So, but we are as honest and say we disappointing our customers first and not later. Yeah? And when we talk about print data preparation, what we find is typically that the aims in ISO since 1996, 12647, the most important standard for offset printing, represented by FOCRA standards such as FOCRA 27, 39, or now 51, that were used for data preparation throughout Europe. And what we see that another calibration was used, the G7 calibration, represented with CRP6, Krakow 213, I would say 99 or 100% in the US. And we can argue about the numbers, but let's say fair, 50-50, it's the rest of the world. Yeah? Depends who you ask. So that means this is a reality, that's why I say today. And we talk about what can be the future when we talk about data preparation, because this, of course, is not very nice, because if you are in different regions but you are a global brand, you would like to have one aim and not different. Tomorrow, what might be the case? The thing is that when we discussed in many committees and workshops, we found out that the difference between the G7 or near neutral calibration and the ISO equal TVI calibration happens to be very similar for printing on coated stock. So for the most important printing condition, printing on coated stock, premium coated, those two calibrations more or less coincidentally come to the very similar printing. And so we said, why not simply average? Why not simply find a compromise that the TVI people say, okay, we don't get the perfect equal curve for each colors. And the G7 near neutral people said, okay, we keep with our CMY, but we change our black a little bit. And that compromise was the birth hour for unified characterization data, UCD. And that UCD test form or that UCD characterization data set, this is the candidate which we are testing right now. We will get more information later from Don about that. This is the first time that we, for the most important printing condition, have a candidate where we might agree together that is the reference to meet. And that will meet one printing aim, worldwide aligned. So this is the main idea, and this is subject for the discussion for some years, but also very popular and very current this week here to come in Hong Kong. And we have more papers in that part two. We talk about 12 substrates. We talk here now for premium coated. This is one specific one. For the other 11 substrates, still TVI, CTV versus near neutral is different. Yeah, how can the print service providers now, the printers, serve both worlds? So today, what you do is typically you have your artwork, you start, you do your data, separate, prepare everything with FOCA 39, FOCA 51, and then you make a proof or not. You calibrate your press with TVI or CTV, and then you work to the PSO, and everything is perfect. Proof to print match, very good. So we achieve a very, very good proof to print match now with aligned colorimetry, M1 measurements, viewing, perfect. If you say, okay, I would like to go to the G7 way, you do the G7 calibration, you prepare your data to CRPC6, proof to print match, also good. So that works also. So these are the two worlds, but still for the printer in the middle, it's a hassle because they must go either way or must use color servers or other means. The idea now for the future is to say, come on, when we have that UCD agreed, this unified characterization data, then we can prepare that, our data, for this UCD. Our next number in FOCRA is 62, so the FOCRA numbers have no meaning. Yeah, they're just a sequence, and the next free number is 62, so that would be FOCRA 62. And so you prepare the data for that, and you calibrate your press with CTV, as we have nicely seen, or Murray Davis, TVI, or near neutral, and then proof to print match. And the cool thing is that even now, if you are having CRP6 data in the pipeline, asset data, you can still take this data and print it also to that identically process calibrated press, and you will also get a within tolerance match. And also FOCA 39 and 51 legacy data. So this is really cool if we could achieve that, because if a service provider ends up doing the calibration you see here in the top row, then you can serve all the different sources to the ISO aims. So this is the main idea of our color communication. And if you want to see some statistics for the color geeks here, if you compare the big color charts with 1,500 colors and compare, for instance, 49 with 51 or CRP6, then you can see the comparison between them also with that UCD, that unified characterization data, that FOCRA 62 or whatever we name that guy later on. Doesn't matter right now. You see, it's quite balanced, and this is really what you see here in the figure, our aim, what we try to achieve for worldwide printing. And again, I don't want to spoiler that. Don did a marvelous job here in testing. We will see more next. You see, we did a lot of print runs, not only simulation, to prove that this new tools are really working out. However, the world is not only CMYK. As you also know, we also talk about spot colors. And this is the second 10 minutes here in my presentation. Spot colors used to be or are very sporty, to be friendly. Some people call it nightmare. It's in the middle, I would say. Spot colors are a very important tool for our community. However, they pose us many challenges. And I don't want to do the shitstorm here. Most of you know those kind of LinkedIn posts or other ones where people complain about this. Alarm, X-Rite knows that for many years. You see here on the left-hand side, this presentation is older than 20 years. And they know all about this. They know about the problems, they are not recommending it, they are telling all the truth, so they know about it. What I need to say is that for the design space, the agencies, the creatives, to be honest, they don't know too much about this one. Yeah? So this is a few challenges where we will tackle in a few seconds, and I will try to give you some recommendations. So how to specify a spot color? If your customer says, hey, printer, I would like to have Pantone 650C. What do? Yeah, you can say, oh, I take my fan deck out and I look it under my viewing booth or outside. I measure it with M1, 3050. I get this reading. Okay. But you might know all of the fan decks are printed on fluorescent, on OBA, optical brightening agents paper. So that means if you go inside where there's no UV, it looks like this. The same physical thing. The same physical thing changes appearance 8 delta E. Yeah? And this is really something which is very noticeable. And you are, as a print service provider, can you ask yourself which value to pick? And then you can ask yourself, or you can read lips, yeah, do you know how your customers view your colors? Do they view it outside, close to the window, inside? So depending on the UV content, it is really important to understand what they do. So that is something where we do some research on right now at FOCRA to develop color transforms and working tools and helping instruments to help print service provider to say what to do when they have to reproduce spot colors. And again, we are looking in a world which is only sun and LED. Yeah, the tubes are banned, incandescent are banned, so we just talk about a world with LED and photons from our sun, or a mixture of both. And this is really something which is very important for specification colors, because if you are a print service provider, it doesn't matter if it's commercial, if it's packaging, or it's industrial, if you're a decoration printer, you have to live with that. People specify their colors, and if people specify their colors in old F11 cool white fluorescent thing, which are not available anymore, they make your life miserable. And for no reasons, because there is no such a light anymore. Yeah? So color specification is really an important thing we have to talk about. And this is something I would like here to show you a little bit more, otherwise it's too hard to explain. So what we did here, we have taken this spot color and have measured it with M0, M1, M2. So no UV, 60% UV, and 100% UV, M1. And then we have printed those three values on OBA rich media and on an OBA poor, free proofing media. And the same one physical thing, one physical fan deck in your fan deck can be reproduced very likely 6 different times. 1, 2, all the same physical sample. As Goethe said, colors are the actions of light. And this is what you see. So the print service provider has no clue. If you just get the information, Pantone 5245, all of the 6 are equally valid. What to pick? Or the same for when you look at the same color under P3, that means here, D50, no UV. That typically means that you switch off your UV LED and there's no excitation anymore. So this is really important, and that's why we try to do some recommendations here from FOCRA point of view, and would like to put some facts here. I'd like to get the mic in here back. So this is what we see when we reproduce colors, that the spot colors here are different when you print them on FM versus AM. So the same spot color can be very different in the midtones. So even if you have defined the spot color, it is no information about what 50% looks like. If you don't have additional process information, it could be 5 to 10 delta E's apart. So this is very important that the screening plays an important role. Or even the paper. So if you apply the same ink film thickness on different substrates, you end up at different. So what value to pick if you go to a cardboard and your spot color looks different? what is the right value you should promise to your print buyer, the one in the fan deck or the one he will very likely end up with? What is our recommendation? So when you read the PSD, the Process Standard Digital, there is a chapter about spot colors, and we say, of course, when you define everything nicely with physical samples and CXF data, this is the golden standard, but people mostly come to us and say, what do I do when this is not given? Yeah? Then we say, please assume M2 mode, just because the legacy in the authoring space is M2. All the LAB value definitions in Photoshop for the last 40 years used to be M2. Work absolute, so like exactly use the values defined in the libraries. When you do a paper adaptation to your cardboard, for instance, please communicate this. Again, the perfect way to work is make a CXF data set of your specific spot colors you would like to have. And even it's very, very golden standard is then to have also a tint in between to really see where the dot gain goes, either if you make a CTV or a Murray Davis. And you will also see the first time ever, by the way, this is the only standard worldwide where you can see delta E's for spot colors. And those are relevant right now across different processes like Flexo, Gravure, and also digital. There's also a FOCRA publication where you can download everything and read this for free. Yeah, printing the expected. When I started 19 minutes before, it's meaning bridging, sourcing, and production. And we learned that the 12647 to come has one printing condition, which is really a combination, unified characterization data where CTV, TVI, and your neutral calibration ends up in the same practical, identical. We see field tests show very promising feedback. We will hear it in a few seconds. And then take this education, take this M1, M2, P1, P3 knowledge with the spot colors to explain your customers, your brands, that you understand color communication and that you are the right one to print the expectation. And yeah, for the spot colors, as I showed, try to rely on physical samples or even better spectral data sets perfectly aligned. And if you want to see all the people talking about it practically, come to Munich next year. Thank you very much.